Hello, on Forest Focus. What a day Sunday could be for Nottingham Forest, but could Chelsea spoil the party even before we look to results elsewhere? Joining us gives the lowdown on opposition who themselves are looking to secure that top five spot. It's great to welcome back our regular Chelsea guest, Harry Daniels. Harry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah. Well, we were talking beforehand about some personal stuff for you that is a bit of a pain as you prepare for your wedding. So hopefully, football's a distraction. Yeah,
That is
yeah.
the end of the football season is the last day is looking interesting. That's definitely for sure.
I do. Yeah, we were having a chat beforehand, and I normally like to chat to guests before we get going. But I thought, right, we'll just hit record and get into it because the conversation that we would have had is the conversation we're going to have anyway. So,
Yeah.
how are you feeling about Sunday? There's a lot on the line.
Yeah, it feels really weird. I hate going into the last day of the season with something to play for. It's much nicer if you can wrap it up all before going into the final game. So definitely a bit of nerves. I think we've played well enough over the past few weeks that we can definitely get a result. So I think I'm hopeful. I definitely don't think it's guaranteed. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get what we need though.
Yeah, just looking at the last few weeks, I think we spoke maybe 6 weeks ago when I did one of these with all
Mm.
the fans about how you feel about Champions League. You were not optimistic, and I was a colleague who I used to work with did a similar thing with the Villa podcast, and their guest was thinking Chelsea could finish eighth at that point. So,
Yeah.
what's changed? Do you think?
What's changed is we're 3 points better off than I thought we'd be by beating Liverpool, basically, is the difference. Because I think all of us as fans looked at it and saw Liverpool and saw Newcastle and thought we'll lose both of those and we'd be 3 points worse off than we are now, basically knowing that we wouldn't, it'd be pretty much over for us going into the final day. So picking up 3 extra points compared to where we thought we'd be, I think is the big difference.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, there are some still some red flags for you going into
Mm.
the game. I'll ask you for predicted team in a moment, but Nicholas Jackson, that red card. I remember I saw you tweet actually at the time. He could have just cost us Champions League. That
Yeah.
was a hot take in the moment, but is it still stand?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think we definitely missed having a focal point up front in the game against Manchester United. Yes, we came in with a win there, but we definitely looked like we lacked it. We couldn't hold the ball up nearly well enough. We didn't create nearly enough going forward because we don't have a number 9 at the moment. And trying to secure and close out the last couple of games without that, yeah, if we don't get it, there will be questions asked of that red card, I have to say.
I suppose, will there be questions asked in general? I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was have Chelsea underachieved? Probably haven't overachieved. Have they hit where they roughly should be this season, do you think?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I would say if we get Champions League, we've probably overachieved, and if we don't get Champions League, we've probably underachieved. It feels like such a fine line that it's going to go one way or the other. If we finish sixth and won the Conference League, if you'd have offered me that at the start of the season, I probably would have said that's a reasonable end to it now. But going into the final day of the season, you'd probably want to say if you told us you need to win on the final day against yourselves and we would get Champions League football, we probably all would have taken that based off where our season was started. And every club has matches so far this season that you look at and think if that game had just gone a little bit differently, like I'm sure you'll look at the Leicester game a few weeks ago and think that City will look at their game against Southampton. I think Ipswich have won one game at home this season and that was against us. And that's probably the one we look at and think, how on earth did that Christmas period go as bad as it did? And we just wouldn't be in this situation going into the last day.
Can they draw with you as well at Stamford Bridge?
Yes.
Oh dear. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't make it, then yeah, blame Ipswich, I guess.
Blame
Certainly.
Ipswich, exactly.
Just on the Conference League, because there's the odds are probably that we'll end up in seventh just because we're seventh at the start.
Mm.
What's it been like the Conference League? Is it worth it or not?
Um, I want to answer this question in the most respectful way to both the Conference League and to some of the clubs in the league. I don't feel that the Conference League is made for teams who are wanting to be in the Champions League regularly. I feel I haven't massively engaged with the tournament. I think it's a great competition for a team who it might be their first or second time in Europe because it really gives you an opportunity to go, far in the competition, have that European away day. But I struggle with it a little bit just because we've had the Champions League nights, we've had the highs in Europe that have really been the highs and the highs as far as European football can go. So some of those, European nights in the Conference League just don't feel like, for a lot of the fans, that it hits nearly as much as it could do for some other clubs.
Yeah, so let's say you beat Betis in the final. With that context that you said there, would it probably be like, I don't know, winning the Charity Shield is a bit harsh, but is it somewhere below winning a Carabao Cup or something like that then?
Yeah, I would say similar. I'd say it's slightly different for us because it would complete the full set, and we would be the only team that to have won all of the European competition. So
Hmm.
for us, it has a slight added want to win it because of that. But if it wasn't for that, yeah, it falls into that sort of category, I think.
Um, I'll get a Maresca tracker on you because I can't remember if you were up on him, down on him, in the middle of it on him last time we spoke or earlier in the season. Where
Mm.
are you at on him now?
I think I was on the middle of him, and I probably am the same. I think we are. I still think there's lots of room for improvement. I don't imagine, and I don't want us to change because I'm fed up of the constant changing. And I do think there is definite progress in terms of the way we're controlling games. I do think a little bit the attacking football's not being nearly where we'd want it to be, but I think it's fine. I think he'll definitely get another year, and I'm pretty happy with that.
When you say the attacking football's not where you want it to be, is it a bit,
Mm.
I don't know, is it a bit pedestrian or what's the problem with it?
Yeah, I think a lot of owners and sort of managers and the way football clubs are going at the moment is they want control of football games. And we've definitely seen that, right? At the end of last year, when we had Poch in charge, we were, winning games 4-3. They were high scoring, but there was definitely not the control. I think we've conceded the third fewest goals in the league this season. But also over the past few weeks, past months, especially, there's a lot of 1-0s. There's a lot of low scoring games in there, which is fine if you pick up the points, but it's more that we are happy to win like that compared to, I suppose, what we were happy to win like before.
We'll talk more about this game specifically in a minute, but just in terms of next season going forward, the
Mm.
squad makeup, I'm sure you're going to tell me you need a better keeper, but what else do you need, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we need a better keeper, but we have conceded the third fewest goals in the league this season, right? So they must be doing something,
Mm.
right? We've definitely had mistakes in our team that we shouldn't have, and a lot of those have been goalkeeper errors. So I think the goalkeeper is something that we will look at and want to adapt to, definitely. Elsewhere, I think we need more backup. I think we need more depth. I think that's what I've seen more than anything. That our first 11 is strong, and when everyone is fit and available, we can compete with pretty much anyone. But as soon as one or two of those are unavailable, that's when we start to have issues, right? So looking for a backup to, Jackson, looking for potentially another winger if we're not going to keep Sancho on, is probably what I would like to have a little bit more of.
You think I hear what you're saying. Do you think it's a bit mad though, in the sense that the turnover and volume of signings you've made, and then you're saying the squad's not big enough? I guess Mudrik's a unique circumstance, but there's Sancho and Kunku hasn't worked out. A lot of these deals
Yeah.
haven't come off.
Yeah, I think there'll be change. I don't think we'll necessarily be adding to the squad. Pretty certain Nkunku will go, and we'll look to use that money, whatever we end up getting for him, to buy something else instead. We haven't actually spent that much money on forwards in the past
Mm.
couple of years, which I think is the big thing that maybe we're missing. And I'm fine with Jackson. The red card is one thing, and what that means for the end of the last season is another. But I think he has the ability to lead our line. And with Mark Gui being out as well, it does mean that we are a little bit light in that area. And even, 70, 80th minute of the game, we don't really have the depth to change it in terms of goal scoring ability. So I think depth in that area, and then wingers are always top priority, it feels.
I was walking. I was going to say walking a dog. I don't have a dog. I was walking with a friend who has a dog this morning, and he's a United fan. And we were talking about
Mm.
Sancho and just what a cluster it's been. Has he been that bad for Chelsea or not, in your opinion? Then.
I don't think he's been that bad, actually. He's had moments where he's been all right. Of course, he couldn't play on Friday because he's club tied, and I actually think if he was available, he probably would have played that game over Tyreek George. So I don't think he's been the worst. I'm not sure it's going to be a signing we make, just because that 25 million, although actually I think it's a pretty decent price for Sancho. I don't think he's the long-term solution to a lot of our problems, and that money is probably better spent elsewhere. His future almost certainly doesn't look like it's at Man United, so he will be looking for another club, but I don't think it will be with us.
Excellent. Right. We'll get into this game specifically. I'll ask Harry for his predicted team in 1 minute. But just before that, a word for the Trent Navigation. A reminder, it's the end of season party after this game at the Trent Nav. Free entry, as DJ said, with the Fun Boy 2. And hopefully a celebration of Forest in the Champions League or the Europa League. But a celebration anyway, nonetheless, for a great season, no matter what happens. And we'll do a big debrief next week on where it went right or where it went wrong. But do enjoy the the end of season party, should I say, at the NAV straight after the game. Entry is free. Right. You won't know exactly, but can you give us a rough predicted 11, what you think it will be?
I think the fact that I think it's actually quite difficult to give a predicted 11 is quite good for us, because I don't think it's completely clear exactly how we're going to set up. So I think it will be Cucurella and Levi Colwill as left back and centre back with Sanchez in goal. And then there's a little bit of a dynamic of whether it will be Reece James and Tosin as our right back and our centre back, or he'll go with Lavia and he'll go with Chalobah. And if he goes with Lavia, it adds that extra element in midfield. Caicedo goes right back and inverts into midfield, and Chalobah's good then because he can play sort of centre back, right back, which Tosin can't do so much. And we play pretty differently depending on which of those combinations he goes with. I think he'll probably go with Reece James again and go with Tosin because of the aerial threat that your team and the Forest pose. And he'll probably want Tosin in the lineup for that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he brings Lavia back into the team to try and create a little bit of sort of midfield fluidity when we have the ball, trying to break through lines and stuff like that. So wouldn't be surprised if we go with Lavia, but I'll predict Reece James, Tosin, Caicedo, Enzo, Palmer, Madueke, Neto, and then it's just between Sancho and Tyreek George. I think Sancho will come back in, which will put Neto up front. But again, there's a little bit of a dynamic there that if it's Tyreek George and Neto on the wing, we offer something a little bit different. But I think Sancho will probably come in.
Let me ask you about a few individuals there. I wasn't going to ask you about Lavia, but whenever I see him, I think he's a great player. Is it just for frustration that he can't stay fit?
Yeah, he is one of the best signings we've made recently, but is unfortunately very injury prone. If you look at our record when he's available versus when he's not, it is absolutely night and day, and it is absolute chalk and cheese. And you look at it when we fell off at over Christmas time, it basically coincided for when he picked up quite a long-term injury. We have three very good midfielders with him and Caicedo in that midfield partnership. If they stayed fit for the majority of the season, I think we'd be comfortably higher up than we are now. So I'm a big fan. And if we can keep him fit and available, it does feel a little bit like he can only play one of Lavia and Reece James. And that actually works quite well because both of them are so injury prone that it allows us to rotate them quite a lot. So they aren't overloaded with minutes, either of them at the moment, which is at the moment, fingers crossed, proving quite good in keeping them both fit.
Yeah, I think he's class. He's class. Cucurella is an interesting one. Chelsea fans hated him. I think it feels fair to say a while ago, but a bit. I don't know. Is he even in the running for Player of the Season? I don't know.
Yeah, so about probably 18 months ago, we were wondering, we'd spent an awful lot of money on Brighton players in Cucurella and Caicedo. Sanchez a little bit different. And now Caicedo and Cucurella are probably our two best players this season. And I think they're number 1 and 2 in terms of player of the season. And Cucurella has scored some enormous goals for us. The goals he scored, I think he's up to 8 Premier League goals now. And they have not just been, the final goal in a 4-1 win. They have been big goals, as we saw on Friday night. We saw in the Euros, unfortunately, as England fans, we saw him develop into a very good left back. And he was one of Spain's player of the tournaments there. And as much as it pained us as Chelsea fans, we did want to see that continue into the season in a Chelsea shirt. And wow, has he done it? Yeah, he's had a phenomenal season.
What about Palmer? Has he had he's had a good season, or has he been a massive letdown? How do you view him?
I mean, it's difficult, right? Because if you take his stats over the course of the season, he's been pretty good because of how good he was for the first 3 or 4 months of the season, and the numbers he put up in those games makes his season look very good. But since Christmas, I think it's 1 open play goal in 15 matches for him now. I think the fact that I've said that we're not creating as many chances is coincided a lot with his lack of goal threat and lack of goal scoring as well. So I think top players, when they break onto the scene, have difficult periods. They start to get double marked when they play in games. They start to, have a little bit of a slump. And we have seen that with him. I don't think he's played badly his just form in front of goal, he's just lacked that confidence. I think. As fans, we're not really worried. I understand why other fans want to point a finger and say he's not been good enough, but as fans, we don't really look at it as much of a concern.
Yeah, I think he's playing well. When I watch it, and obviously I play FPL, you live off of FPL.
Mm.
He's playing well. He's just not scoring whenever I see it. Was a game against Southampton where he had some absolute chances that he would have
Yeah, he
buried,
did.
and
He
that's
did.
probably is that just the difference, the finishing this season then?
It is a little bit. There's been a bit of a change, which I highlight quite a lot between him and Enzo Fernandez. That because of the system we're playing, Enzo Fernandez pushes very far forward, and Enzo likes to be in that right side next to Madueke, and that means Palmer's pushed to the left. And as a left footer, he doesn't like being there. And if you look at a lot of Palmer's best goals, they are on that right side of the box, finishing to the far post, and he's done it so many times. But when he's on the other side of the goal, he can't do that. So it naturally takes away one of his main goal threats. So I love Enzo. I think he's the character of Enzo off the pitch. You can say what you want, but in terms of a leader on the pitch, he's done it well. But I do think his positioning in the team is a hindrance to Cole Palmer.
The other aspects I wanted to ask about, away from the individuals, is the fact it's at the City Ground, it's not at Stamford Bridge. How big a factor do you think that's going to be? Is it a decisive one or not?
I mean, if it was at home, I would definitely feel more confident. The atmosphere on Friday night was great, particularly in the second half. And I think it definitely helped us and carried us over the line in that game. So if it was at home, I definitely would feel more confident. I don't think it's the be all and end all. I think you'll say there's benefits to playing at home, but if it's not going well, you feel the nerves more when you're at home versus if you're away from home. The away section tend to be pretty loud and pretty supportive, whether it's going well or badly. But if you're at home and you're not playing well, you do feel the nerves a little bit more than you're at home. So maybe that would be the way it plays out.
No, I think you're right. If you look at our last three home games, Everton, Brentford, Leicester, we've not played well. Well, actually, Leicester, we played all right, but we had some horrible moments in the game, and you can see there's definite nerves. I guess the first goal is important, especially with Forest, isn't it? The first goal's going to be massive.
Yes.
We get the first goal, we're a different team, aren't we?
Yeah, and it's the same for us. I don't expect this game to be particularly high scoring or there to be much in it. And you look at our games recently, when we don't score first, we don't look great. And when we score first, we're pretty happy to, keep the ball, close out the game better than if we go behind first. So I wouldn't be surprised if this game finishes 1-0 either way.
I'm only thinking on the fly here off the top of my head, but some of your best recent wins, Liverpool's at home, United was a big win, that was at home.
Yeah.
I can't remember how good you've been away recently or not, but have they got enough steel about them to come to there will be a hostile atmosphere and get a result mentally then, do you think?
I think so, because I think there are enough in that dressing room now who know and have been in situations like this before. Again, I would love it to be at home, and I would be feeling much more confident if it was at home. I do think there is enough in that squad to get it, but I am nervous, I have to admit.
Let me ask you about Forest, and I've got some evidence that puts you in on the back foot already. I was going to say, do you think they're done? And I know you might have done because you put Williams and Milenkovic on your bench and said they won't see any action again this season in FPL. So you obviously thought we were done defensively then, at least.
Well, I would have to say over the past few weeks, you've started to leak a little bit more than you have done. I think the big thing is Murillo's absentees for quite a lot of those games. I'm a big fan of a lot of your defenders and how well you defend and your goalkeeper as well. One player I'm not a fan of though is Morata. I think a lot of your sort of goals you've conceded over the past few games have had him at faults of it. And I look at that Leicester game and maybe the Bowen goal at the weekend as well. So it looks like Murillo's probably going to end up being okay. But I do think there's a little bit more fragility that we haven't seen at the early point in the season.
I think that's fair. We have discussed Morato at length. Today, as we record this, there was a Morato section and there was the other day as well. So, yeah, that's certainly fair. What about us going forward? Who worries you going the other way?
I mean, I think one of the biggest issues is we have one of the lowest conversions from set pieces in the league. So in the air, we're not very good. So I do look at your threats of someone like a Milenkovic and a Murillo and a Chris Wood from set pieces in the air and worry about them. Your wingers are always capable of doing damage. So yeah, I think you've got threats all over the pitch. I think Chris Wood is obviously the oldest one who can score. His goals recently have not been quite as much as maybe you'd liked, but yeah, he can get chances and he only needs one or two and he's able to put it away. So it is one of those that you're going to have to take your chances on the day, and there won't be many, I don't think, for either team. And it's whether we take them and whether you take them.
Let me put you on the spot then. I've got this is the Opta predicted table for people who were with us on Monday. We use this. So this is recorded before Man City's game against Bournemouth. So City already at 85%. So a win or a draw probably puts them right in the box seat. The Opta have Chelsea at 58%, Forest at 27% to make the UCL. Feel about right to you if I was pushing you for a prediction that you'll make it or not?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair because we, it's in our hands, right? We know a win will do enough, and it doesn't matter what happens on anyone else's pitch. I suppose the only other slight benefit to us is if Villa don't win and we draw, that's also enough. So it is possible that we get there with just a point against you, whereas you've got to go and win that game regardless of what happens on anyone else. I think those percentages are probably fair. I think the City percentage is a little bit high. It's their goal difference, which gives them a lot of extra benefit. But Bournemouth and Fulham, who are still in the race to finish 8th, 85% chance that they win both their games or get 4 points across the two is probably fair because it's Manchester City. But I think we've seen over the past few weeks that they can be fragile. So I think Newcastle are almost certain to get it. Arsenal, of course, but I would probably knock that City number down. Part of me thinks that game tomorrow night home to Bournemouth is not going to be as easy as people think.
Can you make, we did this discussion as well, can you make a narrative for Everton upsetting Newcastle, or is it that it's just not going to happen?
When I saw Jarrad Branthwaite go off with what looks like a hamstring injury, that percentage chance of Everton doing anything went from about 10% down to 1%, I think. So I'd be very surprised with that now. Everton have had their big day in their final game at Goodison Park. I don't see that one.
What about, I can't believe I'm potentially putting faith in Man United, but Man U at home, last day of the season, won't want to go out on defeat. Can they do it?
I don't think, I'm not ruling that one out. And that's why I think it's interesting for us, because if Villa draw that game and we draw, that's fine for us because we'd stay above Aston Villa. So there is part of me that thinks we are probably not going to come out of the blocks looking to score and win the game in the first half, because if we get to half time and Villa are 1-0 down, then we might be slightly more, okay, let's not lose this game because of what it can mean. We probably want to win just because we don't, then it doesn't even matter what happens. And if Villa were to get a late goal, we don't want to leave ourselves in that position. But I do look at that game as, again, I think there is one of those games on the final day which is not going to go the way we expect.
Excellent. We shall leave it there. Do us a favor if you haven't already. Hit like on this video. Do hit subscribe. Do consider membership or Patreon. You'll get early access to anything pre-recorded like this with Harry, or just give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Do give us a plug for your FPL work. Although when this comes out, I don't know if your FPL work will have finished and you'll go into pre-season mode yourself. But do give us a plug anyway.
Yeah. We'll be getting to the end of the season and then have a nice month off, but we'll be back next year on the FPL Harry channel to do it all over again.
Excellent. Do you do reviews? A lot of FPL channels just they don't do reviews. I guess it's all looking ahead, isn't it?
It's mainly looking ahead. So we'll see how the final day goes, and then we'll decide.
Excellent. Right. Thank you very much for Harry's time as ever. Really enjoyed that. We'll be back with our post-match show tomorrow. Not sure who's joining us, but I really hope it's a celebration. I can't see us going out and getting absolutely tanked, but it's been a great season anyway. Let's see what it brings. Good luck to Chelsea for next season. Not good luck for this game. Thanks very much to Harry. Have a good day, everyone. If we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.